Okay guys, today's match is against Doomaga. Doomaga is a 1900 TMR player and one of the few players we actually have a really bad track record against. We do win this match, which is why I feel a little guilty, because if we have 5 wins against Doomaga, he probably has 15 against us. But I thought this was a good match to show my team displaying its strengths. And there's one turn that I think is pretty controversial. It looks really good from our side at first, but I think when you dive deeper into it, it's actually the wrong play, and I really wanted to talk about this specific play. So I wanted to bring up this Barchi and Mudrid real quick. So it's pretty much the same team, but in the first video I mentioned how we were going to remove Vulcrane from our team and replace it with a Barchi on ladder. So this is that Barchi. And then we removed Ukama for Mudrid, but this is we're just testing this out. And in theory, it gives us more coverage, I guess. Like, it helps against crystal teams a little bit more. But like, the whole job of our Ukama was to protect against Vulcrane's turn 1, which is what we happen to run into this game. I think this is the first game we're trying it out. And okay, so let's jump right into this. And I do have some notes from Doomaga on this game as well. Again, I had his consent on this. So we're always first banning Vulcrane, lots of wins, and then we'll try to second ban Whiplump. And he bans Platymus. And now we can't open our mechs here because he has Vulcrane, so we have to go for something different. And I don't actually think we have a lot of great options here. And I think about it for a while, I end up going with Mashuk. And I don't know, I just thought it was the best option at the time. Like, nothing else seemed really that appealing. And Mashuk can also like help bring Kinus out, because Kinus will have Beta Burst and they think they might get a free Beta Burst off. And we always want to fight against Kinu, right? And then he goes for a Vulcrane Kinu open, which I didn't ask him about this, but I wanted to, and I'll add something in the comments of the video if he gets back to me before we upload this, or even after. Like, I just think he was probably going for like a raid boss Vulcrane play here, because Vulcrane's like pretty decent to most of our team after you ban Platymus, especially if you can get a couple buffs off him. As long as he doesn't get hit by Dust Vortex, he'll, take a mud shower somewhat okay. And then, he's good into mechs, he's good into Mastion, he's good into Nidrasil, so I think that's just what the line of play was. And then we just pick Gulder to protect our Mashuk turn 1. So like, a turn 1 play is just like super simple. We just ink the slot, then we Rushiol this slot, and we just get a free 6 ticks of poison, or 5 if he brings Guy Allison. And then we second ban Whiplump. And he bans our Barchi. I think he's just doing this so we don't have any win resistance, because then he just fills out the rest of his team with wins. And then, oh yeah, I wanted to say this as well. So we bring Gulder in this spot. In the last video, we talked about how we needed to bring our energy drink here, but this spot is a little bit different. Even though he does have the grandpa and the pig behind, and he already has Kinu, we now have 2 mentals in this game that were still available because we didn't have mix in this slot. So we had 2 mentals, and we also have a Mudrid who's resistant, and our Mudrid is fast. It's faster than grandpa, so we don't have to worry about getting slept before he gets a move off. And we had our energy drink as well, so it wasn't going to be terrible. I thought we could, if our energy drink got second ban here, we still would have been, it wouldn't have been as bad, because we probably weren't bringing this here, because he's going to try to raid boss this Vulcrane. At least I think that's his line of play. And this has Hypno, and then these 2 have Hypno, and he doesn't win him. He's not good into Guy Alice. So then we just bring Mex and we bring Nidrasil. And then he wanted me to note how he brings the pig specifically to deal with Mudrid. His pig had Oshi, and that's why he brought it over the Guy Alice. And it also, can support the rest of the team. So like I said, turn 1 we're just Urusha rolling, and we will Toxic Ink the Kinu. And he doesn't have Gaialis, so we get a free 6 ticks of poison. And if the Kinu wants to Beta Burst, then it's going to get hit with an Ink, so that's okay. And he ends up going for a double swap, so he brings in his 2-Vine and his Pig. We do get a Rock Shield snared here, but it's not a huge deal. He only has 1 crystal and it's 2-Vine. 2-Vine's never intentionally putting crystal damage into Mashuk because he has, wind damage, right? And then I wanted to point out as well, if he brings in Grandpa here, so like this next play, we read Turbo and we read Feather Gatling into Goulder, or Feather Gatling into someone, but we read Turbo here, so we end up just doubling into Pig to get him within at 37.5%, so he can die to poison. But if he brings in Grandpa here, he has like a million different plays, and our line of play it's pretty much impossible to predict exactly what he's going to do. Like he could go for something like a double Hypno, and then try to double Turbo the following turn. He could Hypno one spot, Turbo in the other. He could Bamboozle Grandpa, and he could Hypno, or if this has Tornado, they could go for double wind damage. Like they have infinite plays possibilities, and we definitely don't stay on in both spots. We probably bring our Mental in. We'll bring Mix in somewhere here. But I just wanted to point that out. Like the Grandpa takes more damage, of course, but there's just so much you can do with Grandpa on a swap in. So we end up just doubling in a Pig instead. Pig goes for Turbo. And he goes for a Humiliating Slap. I don't know if that was just him predicting possibly a swap in as well. Maybe he didn't just want to put wind at, like, if we had swapped in like Mex here instead, he wanted to get the -1 defense so he could kill with Crystal Plume the following turn or something, or maybe. Like maybe if we had swapped in Mudrid, he was just making sure we dropped defense if we had swapped. And he wanted me to note as well that the whole point he brought his Pig was to kill Mudrid, and then he kind of like threw away his Pig early in the match, and that was one of the reasons he felt like he lost. So on this next play, which is the play I really wanted to talk about, so we read Hypno into Mashuk, and we read Feather Gatling into Goulder, which we get right. So what we end up doing is we'll swap in Mix into the Mashuk spot to eat the Hypno. But we didn't think about how on the following turn, so let's get there. So we didn't think about how on the following turn, Mix doesn't threaten the board at all. So we can't attack the Pig slot because we want it to die to poison. And Pig is faster, so he can just Bamboozle to protect 2-Vine. So here we read Bamboozle and probably Feather Gatling to finish off Goulder. And I just kind of thought about it. It was just, well, Mix doesn't do anything here, so why don't I just swap Mashuk right back in, so when Pig dies, if Grandpa comes in, we can get an Arusha roll off on Grandpa. Grandpa won't have his hold moves available, so he can't put us to sleep. And at worst, we're eating a Wind Burst, which is, we'll take that trade to poison the Grandpa. If Kinu comes in, Goulder's still in the field, and even if Goulder dies, we can just bring in Nidrasil in. Nidrasil can still ink the Kinu. And if the Vulcrane comes in, we're just going to Urusha roll the Vulcrane. So I end up bringing just Mix right back in here, just because I end up bringing Mashuk right back in because Mix doesn't do anything on this turn. But I should have just kept in Mashuk the following turn and let him get slept, because if we go back to the following turn, the proper play here is just to uppercut 2-Vine and then ink 2-Vine. So we ended up swapping Mix and we inked 2-Vine. But if he didn't Hypno and he just Bamboozled here instead, we bring in Mix for nothing, and he doesn't get inked. The 2-Vine doesn't get inked. So we needed to double this spot just in case he didn't go for Hypno and we were wrong and he bamboozled instead. At least I think that's what we're supposed to go for. Like, it looks really good at first, but I don't think it was the right play. And we just completely misread this play as well and just get lucky that we make the right swap in, because he ends up doubling into Mashuk, or into what was a mix with Oshi. And we did not think that was coming. We thought it was going to be a bamboozle in the 2-vine slot. So we misread the play. We just make a lucky swap. And then we just bamboozled with Gulder because we thought we were dead anyway. And we couldn't ink anything because they were both poisoned. I didn't want to swap something in, so I just threw a bamboozle on the Mashuk, like not thinking I was even going to live. And then he brings in Vulcrane here, and then these are just, this is just good cage play. So we just cage trap in 2-vine here, because 2-vine still gets like guaranteed value later in the game, because he's +2, he's faster than everything else in the game. So we can run away with him here, come back later, and he's guaranteed to at least get 1 move off, possibly 2. So we just cage, and then he doesn't get the rest because he tries to run, and then he has to stay on and overexert the following turn. And then we just ink with Gulder onto the Vulcrane slot. And then we kind of hope that that Gulder just dies here and we can bring in something fresh. So occasionally with Mashuk, we broke our own bamboozle. Oh yeah, we're also not running Grease Gulder this game. We took it off him. And then the Gulder ink goes first because we run some speed on our Gulder. And then we just bring in Nidrisil here. Which is basically like the same thing. It's a better Gulder. And now we can just uppercut and we can spores this 2-vine. Because the 2-vine has to, if it wants to attack here, it has to overexert. So it's going to lose HP anyway, so we're hoping that we can just finish it with spores to save stamina. Oh, he wanted to mention as well, on this turn specifically, he doubles into Mashuk, but he said he should have doubled into Nidrisil instead, which I do think is the better play. But my Nidrisil does live a double, but it obviously cripples it. We're below, 15, 10% health. I think it maybe dies if this has Fire Chip and this has Hand Fan, but I know we live they don't have either one. Now 2-vine's overexerted and it's poisoned. And then we just go for a cage here again, just to trap Vulcrane in. So Vulcrane can't get away, and then Kinu gets on at some point. He brings Vulcrane back in and revitalizes or something. Because our 2 Tems in the back, Mudrid and Mechs, are both one-shot to Stoneball. So we just want to kill this thing now. And then the Mudrid and the Mechs can deal with the grandpa behind. Doomaga also wanted me to note that he kept his grandpa in the back too long, which is kind of what I agree with as well. Because we kind of just had with this whole match so far has just been Mashuk and Gulder and Mashuk and Ninderstill. Like Mix came in for one turn, and the grandpa wasn't out here to deal with the poisons, or the toxics rather. Now he's forced to beta burst here as well because he can't revitalize because our uppercut just takes the revitalize away. So he needs a beta burst to kill Mashuk. Because we weren't overexerted. And then the match is pretty much over from this point. It's kind of just clean up now. Even if he swaps in, I mean, Vulcrane's going to die here, but even if he went for swap instead, we just double into the spot. He eats a Toxic Ink. And then Vulcrane dies behind. Our Mix and Mudrid should just be able to carry the game out from there. Okay, I'm just going to stop it there. The rest of the match doesn't really matter from this point on. I will try to have some more content out this week. I might even change the format up slightly. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. Bye.